lawns are a great spot to gather resources for your shelter. You can see here we've got quite a few different leaves here. It's the end of September right now, and they're all starting to come down. Any explorer know what kind of leaf this is predominantly? Take a good look. What is it? You'll notice that lawns tend to gather a lot of leaves, and if you got to rake leaves, you might as well rake them up and build a shelter out of them. Leaves and debris are the hardest thing to gather. So think laterally and really use whatever resources you have around you. Ooh, all that debris. Here we have a shelter that I'm working on right now. You can see down here we've got some dug fir bark, and underneath there we've got some nice kind of fluffy soil. So I did rearrange this quite a bit. Did as much as I could to make sure I was as minimal impact, because I'm using so much of the land right now, and it's my hope to tread as lightly as possible, especially when building a shelter, because I know it takes a lot of material, and I just want to be respectful. So I did find a place that was as minimal impact as possible. You can see here we've got some dead sword fern fronds down here, and I figured they would make a nice bedding. When building a foundation, you always want to think about how much of a buffer you can have between yourself and the earth. Direct contact with the earth is going to suck all that heat right out of you. We definitely know through experience that if you sit down on the ground for a long period of time and it's cold out, you end up getting cold, and that's because the earth is pulling all of that warmth right out of your body. It's giant and you're small, and that heat wants to go to the bigger thing. So what you do when you're building this shelter is really try to get a buffer. I like soft soil because I know that there's air in it, right? And then I do lay down this dug fir bark. This was a down dug fir. I try to only take stuff that's dead, as little live as possible, and ideally no live, just to once again tread lightly. But this dug fir bark, even though it's kind of hard, it does create a nice barrier. And then if I put down this bedding of sword fern fronds, and really you can use anything you want, be creative here, have fun, and use some creative problem solving, and you'll actually find it to be a real delight putting together your shelter. These guys, basically all they're doing is just creating a little more barrier between me and starting to create insulation on the bottom. You want insulation on top, but you also want a little insulation on that bottom, enough to keep you keep a good barrier between you and the earth. So you'll also notice over here, what the heck is this? I happen to have a sit spot that has quite a bit of ivy, so I've combined service with creativity and skills. And I've decided that I'm going to try to build this shelter. It's going to be a basic Y shelter. You can see that long center beam there. I'm going to build this shelter so that I use as much invasive resources as possible too. So I pulled a bunch of ivy, and we'll see in a little bit how it works. I'm not quite sure, but I'm thinking we can use those leaves for some internal bedding where they'll die off and they won't reroot, and then weave the vine through the ribs to make a strong frame. So let's see what happens there. My hope is that I'll end up with no ivy rooted on the ground, and a strong and warm and fun, beautiful shelter. Okay, you can see we've gotten a little bit further here. We've got a few more ribs up, as you can see. There we go. Still quite a bit of space in there. and eventually this is going to be completely closed off. But right now, this first step is to get just some basic primary ribs in there, and to start filling it a little bit with leaves. You can see that I've got quite a few leaves, and I've got some leaves in bags here. What I've done is done a little project that I like to call Secret Service, where I have raked up a neighbor's yard, and it's a neighbor that I know likes to rake their yard, and I just did it secretly, and then took the leaves and used them as my bedding, and I will also use them for the top of this shelter. So a great opportunity to combine service and skills and connection, and a lot of fun too. So a little bit more about this bedding here. You can remember I had that ivy earlier, and that ivy is nowhere to be seen. I will harvest some more ivy to weave in between these frames, in between these primary ribs, right, to make a solid structure. And I'm even planning on wrapping it around the ridgepole, around that spine there, to make it one solid structure. Might as well use ivy as cordage, and again combine service with skills. So the other ivy is nowhere to be seen, but if we look under here, you're going to see a little bit. See that little bit of green there? Oh, that's an ivy. Look at that. This guy right there. What I've done is used it as a bit of bedding. Kind of balled it all up and then spread it out a little bit so that it could serve as a nice cushion, airy buffer between me and the earth, and then piled it with oak leaves. Oak leaves are preferable to maple leaves. One reason that I've found is because I don't like getting those big leaf maple samaras. You know, the little hair that gets in there, that gets in your skin, and it's impossible to get out. I don't want to sleep in that. So I chose oak leaves. And luckily enough, I have an oak tree pretty close to me. And I think I've just given away what kind of leaf that is. Ooh, oak leaf. So, I think that's it for this step, and then we'll go on to show a little bit of the weaving, and then the final step of just burying the heck out of this thing. 3 feet, that's what we want. 3 feet of debris around there. Good luck. That's going to be quite a few bags, but I am thankful that we have lawns and Secret Service available, because harvesting from the fern forest is definitely doable, but also would take a tremendous amount of time, a lot more time than raking leaves up. So I'm going to go with bringing my home to my other home. Alright, see you soon. So you can see here we have the ivy all woven in between there. I feel the need to repeat right now that ivy is an invasive. So if you have it at your spot, it's a great way to do service. Start clearing that ivy, but then after you do that, really maintain that area and make sure that ivy doesn't reroot and sprout up. We really want to get your land in balance as much as possible. And definitely, if you have no ivy at your spot, don't bring ivy to it. One little leaf, just one little leaf, is enough for that thing to sprout, and then if you leave it unattended for long enough, you'll end up with a whole ivy forest. So, there you go. You'll notice these old branches on top there. Some cedar that I took and placed on top of the leaves. Did that just to make sure that they don't blow away. Like everything here, it's an experiment, and I've got a thick enough layer of leaves there that it won't let water in. At least that's my hope. But we're going to have to try that in a really thick downpour. Here it is from the front. You can see there's a lot more leaves that can be put on there, especially to get that 3-foot thick layer. But right now it's pretty cozy. It's getting towards the end of the day, so it's kind of hard to see inside. It just looks dark and foreboding, but it's actually really comfortable. More comfortable than a tent, more comfortable than a sleeping bag. It's kind of magic inside. So if you get a chance, I highly recommend building one. Alright, explorers. This is 1 year to the day. We're in October. All those other shots were from last October. And here we have the debris hut. Keep in mind, it's been an entire year. Let's look on the top here. Looks like we got some deterioration on the sides there, right? You can see that. But still a pretty good leaf mound on top there. Now let's take a look and see, after all this rain, all this freezing and thawing of an entire year with just leaves, do we have dryness inside? Oh, I don't know how well you can see that on video, but let's take a look. Oh my gosh, I want you to take a look at that. If only you could feel it. Completely and utterly dry inside. Yep, I could sleep in this thing tonight, and I just might. And you can do the same thing if you build a debris hut and you put enough debris on top, and make sure you build it well, make sure you're in good relationship with the land when you're doing it. You will have one that can last a year or more. Now all I have to do, since it's fall again, is gather some more leaves, and I'm all ready for next year. Alright, you guys have fun exploring. Thanks so much.